MLS season is just 19 days away now, and we've got part 2 of our preview show. We're going to take a look at 4 more teams. We're heading north of the border for this one. We're going to take a look at the final Champions League team, Montreal. We're going to take at their Canadian rivals, Toronto, and the 2 remaining Cascadia teams, Vancouver and Portland. Here we go. So we're going to hop straight into things. We're going to start with the remaining Champions League team, Montreal. Now, Montreal gets their season started 1 week from tomorrow, so they will have to be putting out a pretty good lineup. They're playing Club Lyon, which is the toughest draw of any of the MLS teams, so I expect to see their first choice lineup, being that they didn't change coaches and they have a lot of the same players coming back for this year. I expect a similar lineup for this year, but we'll go through all of that in a second. First, the big transfers in. Alistair Johnston paid $1 million to get him from Nashville, and then Gabriel Corbo, a center back who I really like and I think will make a good solid impact on this team. And then we've got Matko Mihailovic as well coming in. Transfers out, Eric Hurtado, Clement Diop left in the middle of last season, but I thought I'd include him here anyway. And then Mustafa Kiza. Not a lot of talent leaving the building, so a lot of their good players are coming back, but just something to keep in mind there. Key youngsters, Sunusi Ibrahim. Can't see him making a huge impact because the front 3 is kind of set in stone. I don't expect Ibrahim to break into this team, but I mean, with these youngsters, if they start to play well enough, they can always displace a pretty guaranteed starter. So just keep an eye on Sunusi Ibrahim. Biggest loser from this offseason, I think, is Joel Waterman. As well as he played, I think Corbo probably is there to take his spot, so I don't think we're going to see quite as much of Joel Waterman as we saw last year. Getting into the best 11, I think Sebastian Breza gets the goalkeeper nod, but this is probably the most interesting thing going on in Montreal, starting lineup-wise. You have either Breza or Pentemis, and I think it's going to be Breza. I don't think they liked Pantemis a lot, but he did decline a call-up from the Canadian national team so he could stay in camp and fight for this job. So you love to see two competitive guys really going at it. That'll be one to watch kind of all year. I think they'll probably both start at points this year, but I think Breza is going to start the season as the guy. Back 3, Corbo, Miller, and Camacho. Chenier will be on the left, I believe, and then Alistair Johnston on the right. Victor Wanyama and Piet are the holding midfielders, and then Kyoto, Mason Toy, and Georgi Mihailovic are the front 3. I don't think there's anything too crazy in here. Other players that we can keep an eye on. Zach Brogiard as well. He's a decent player that will probably mix in a little bit. I think he's another one of the big losers. With Johnston coming in, I don't know that he retains his right back spot, but still a very decent player. As we already talked about, Joel Waterman is a very good player as well. I'll be interested to see what they get out of guys like Hamdi, guys like Lassi Lapinlainen. Joaquin Torres is another good one. Bjorn Johnson. I mean, they've got some real depth on this team that can make an impact. I mean, also Matko Mihailovic, another one of those young guys that they've brought in there. They've got some depth on this team that can make an impact, so I don't know that these guys are super set in stone, but just from the formation that they were playing at the end of last year, I think those front 3 are pretty set. I expect Toy to be a starter when he comes back, but we'll see if he even comes back to start the season. Next up on our list, we have our big spenders, and a lot of people say our big winners of the offseason, Toronto FC, TFC. We've got Lorenzo Insigne. You might have heard of that guy. He's coming in over the summer. We've got Salcedo, another big signing at the back for Toronto. We've got O'Neal, who came in, as well as Jimenez. Going out, we had a ton of talent. Richie Laryea is gone. Marky Delgado's gone. Dwyer didn't do a whole lot, but he's gone. Omar Gonzalez is gone. Soldado is gone. Josie's gone. Aro's gone. And Kamar Lawrence is gone. If you didn't know, those last 2 guys, Aro and Lawrence, were not listed on the preseason roster for TFC. And I think Bob Bradley came out and kind of questioned their commitment to the team. So both of those guys are expected to be gone, which does leave some serious problems in defense. They weren't super deep at the back to begin with, but now I think they've got some real issues. I think they're going to have to make a signing. Moving on, key youngster, Jaquel Marshall-Rutty. I'm very high on him long term, but again, this is a talented team, and I don't know where Marshall-Rutty is going to break into it. This may not be his year. It may take a little while, but at some point, this guy's going to be a superstar. Biggest loser is probably Schaffelberg. He was in line to get some big minutes this year, and really I thought was going to have a pretty breakout season. He'll still get the first half of the season, I believe, at left winger, but once Insigne comes in, there's just no way that Insigne is not playing. They play the same position. Schaffelberg can play up top, but now they've got Akinola back, and they've got Jimenez coming in, so they've got a ton of talent up top at the number 9 position. I can't see Schaffelberg breaking into this lineup consistently, maybe as something like a super sub, but that obviously doesn't help us from a Soros perspective. Again, a goalkeeper is a very interesting topic here. My pick is Bono, but they also obviously have Westberg. There have been heavy rumors linking them to a goalkeeper from overseas, but as of right now, those rumors have not come to pass. So I think they're going to roll with Bono and just see what happens. They've got other issues at the back too. Grabbing Salcedo is a big move. Mavinga's a good player and O'Neal is a good player. But those are only 3 guys. I don't think they're going to play with a back 3. Bob loves the 4-3-3 formation, so I assume that they are going to have either Salcedo and Mavinga and slide O'Neal out to the right, or Salcedo and O'Neal and slide Mavinga out to the left. And then I think they're going to have to make a fullback signing, which is why I have this question mark here. I really don't know who on their roster would even play fullback at this point. The holding midfielders, Bradley and Osorio, I think they'll play Pozuelo in kind of an attacking mid, but it is still going to be a 4-3-3, so I think Pozuelo is going to have to defend a little bit more than he's maybe used to. And then Schaffelberg will be on the left to start the season. Insigne, once he gets in, that's his position. Jimenez will be up top, and I think they'll spread Akinola out wide to the right. Taking a look at their team, it's really difficult, again, to see who's going to play left back. I guess Petruso could play left back. He was at TFC 2 last year for parts of it. I think Singh is gone. Could be wrong about that. I think they got McNaughton in and sent Singh to Pacific. Maybe Lucas McNaughton can have an impact at the back for them. But as of right now, I just don't see it. When you take Aro and Kamar Lawrence off of this team, there's just no left backs. And I don't think Bob is going to play with a back 3. So we'll have to see what they end up doing. In the midfield, guys to watch out for, Okello's very good. Priso's very good. Osorio and Bradley, I think, are the class of the midfield. De Leon is kind of a play-everywhere piece, so I think he'll get some rotational minutes, but definitely not a starter. Like I said, Schaffelberg will hold down that left wing. Jaden Nelson is also one to watch. He's very, very good as well. He'll probably get some time. Marshall Reddy will get some time. Akinola will get some time. Jesus Jimenez will get some time. Josie's gone. Achara might get a little bit of time. And then Perusa is very good as well. So they've got some depth up top. But Bob doesn't love to rotate his players a whole lot. He likes to have a set starting lineup, and especially this season with not a lot of midweek games, I think we're going to figure out what that lineup is pretty quick, and then we're going to just kind of roll with that throughout the season. I don't think you'll see a ton of rotation. However, Bob is known for getting his younger guys minutes. He does believe in youth. He will let them play. Guys like Schaffelberg, Nelson, Marshall Reddy, even Io to a certain degree. Should see some time, and I think they'll all do very, very well in Bob's system. Moving on to Vancouver, playoff team from last year. One of the deepest teams in MLS that I can find. They've done a really good job of using the Alphonso Davies money to just kind of throw in really nice pieces left and right. I really like how they've built this team. Big transfers in Vite and Blackman. Transfers out, Croupeau goes to LAFC. Theo Baer is gone, Bikel is gone, and Gaspar. They were negotiating with Gaspar to try to bring him back, but I don't think that ever came through. Key youngster, they don't really have a youngster. You could go Caicedo here, but I don't even know that Caicedo starts for this team. I think he has that kind of super sub role again this season, although I think he is very talented. So I'm going to go with Thomas Hassel. He is U23, which for a goalkeeper is very, very young. It'll be very key to their season for him to replace Maxi Croupeau very, very well. So that is a big one to watch. Biggest loser here, I think, is Javian Brown. He's the loser of the Blackman deal there. I think Blackman plays right back. So I don't think there's a spot for Javian Brown in the starting lineup. Going into the starting lineup, we have Hassel as the undisputed goalkeeper. I'm going to put Godoy in here because he's just too good to leave out of the starting lineup. I'm going to leave Florian Ljungwirth on the bench, but those two could be sharing minutes with each other unless one grabs the starting role over the other. Ljungwirth does bring a certain amount of leadership, but Godoy, I believe, has been the captain in recent years, had a horrendous 2021, couldn't get anything going, but he's a talented player, so I would expect to see Godoy kind of take that place back a little bit. Veselinovic, I think, is nailed on. Nerwinski's very good. Blackman, as I said, gets the right back nod. Gutierrez goes out to the left back. They've got Tybert and Alexander as the holding mids, although those guys are interchangeable. They've got a ton of talent in the midfield, so keep an eye on that. And then we've got Gold, White, and Dahomey up top. I think those three guys are nailed on. Those are quality players up top for Vancouver. Taking a look at Vancouver, so Hassel is actually the only goalkeeper on the roster right now. So they do need to sign another, like a backup goalkeeper to help him out. But they've got Godoy, Veselinovic, Ljungwirth are very good back three. They've got Tristan Blackman, who will play right back. Nerwinski is a center back. So those four guys, Godoy, Veselinovic, Ljungwirth, and Nerwinski, will be the four center backs. And then Blackman and Brown will be the right backs, and Gutierrez will be the left back. Caicedo can also play left back as well. Midfield, Tybert is the club captain. I don't expect him to be going anywhere. The spot next to him is the really interesting run on this team. I chose Alexander, but Vite is a good option as well, although he's new and he's only 19, so he probably doesn't slide into the team right away. Awosu was the guy that was holding down this spot at the end of last year, so he is an interesting one as well. And then they actually picked up Sebastian Berhalter, sneaky little pickup there from Columbus, so it'll be interesting to see if Berhalter plays at all. And then the front three is Gold, Dahomey, and Brian White. And then Cavallini has apparently come into camp really good shape. He wants to be on the Canadian World Cup team, so it'll be interesting to see Lucas Cavallini, see if he can break back into that starting 11. Ryan Raposo is also a guy that I like a whole lot, so it'll be interesting to see if he can kind of break in and get a few minutes. As I said, Caicedo, very talented player. They've got a lot of options here going forward, so Vancouver really set up nicely, and they finished the season last year very strong, so we expect them to continue building on that momentum going into 2022. Finally, we've got Portland, the defending Western Conference champions. However, they lost the MLS Cup, and I don't know, I don't think they're going back there this year. Transfers in, Ayala's a good one, and Moreno comes in. Valeri's gone, Clark is gone, and Zambrano is gone. Key youngster could be David Ayala. He'll get a chance, I think, in the midfield. We'll have to see. Biggest loser, I think, is Christian Paredes. I don't think that there's a spot here with Williamson coming back. That's the big guy that's moving in and pushing out Paredes. But David Ayala is a guy that also is probably going to challenge for minutes there. So I don't know that Paredes is really a guy that I want to rely on too heavily. Best 11 goalkeeper is another fascinating watch here. They've got Bingham, they've got Ivacic. Our guy in Portland says that Ivacic is going to be the guy to start the season, but he'll be on a little bit of a short leash, so watch out for that. They could make the move to Bingham at any time, especially if Ivacic starts to struggle. In the back, Zupric and Mabiala are the center backs. Van Rankin and Bravo are the fullbacks. Chara and Williamson will hold, and then they have like an attacking midfielder. I'm going to put Sebastian Blanco still in that role until he proves that he has lost a step. I think he still deserves to start. And then Yimi Chara outside, Andy Polo up top, or Andy Polo I think on another wing, and then Mora up top. It's tough with Portland to really figure out what's going to go on in the front because they are so deep up front. They've got a ton of guys that have a ton of talent. So first, the guys that I said would start: Yimi Chara, Andy Polo, and Felipe Mora, but I wouldn't be at all surprised to see Asprilla. I wouldn't be at all surprised to see Larea or Niazgoda. Those guys all can fill in and do a phenomenal job. And then in the midfield, we've got kind of a bit of a logjam here for just two spots. You figure Diego Chara is probably still going to start, Potentially, if he doesn't start, that opens up the spot for Paredes, but I think you have to start Chara, and Williamson is the second best of those midfielders. Christian Paredes would be third, probably, in my opinion, and Ayala is just too young. He might get some rotational minutes, but typically it'll take a little while to get used to the MLS level. Bill Tuiloma is also going to fill in the back, and as I said, with the goalkeeper position, David Bingham and Ivacic are the two to keep an eye on. Hunter Sulte is still a young guy, still a good ways away, but definitely one to watch for the future.